Rick Hogg, that stuff you taught me saved my life. Unit operator, author, entrepreneur, 29-year special operations veteran, founder of War HOGG Tactical. www.warhogg2gs.com. Today we hear the story of 29-year Army Special Operations veteran Rick Hogg, who spent time with the 82nd, 7th Special Forces Group and the unit, the Tier 1 US Army Special Operations Command. His time ranged from Desert Storm deep into the post-9/11 era. Rick spent years as a canine handler in the special ops community, forging a very strong bond with his dog, Duco, in particular. Rick managed through years of deployments and overcame the effects of TBI, traumatic brain injury, with a very concerted focus on his own health and transition from the military that many can learn from. After leaving the service, Rick is the founder of War HOGG Tactical, a training company that provides firearms, tactical, and canine training to law-abiding citizens, military, and law enforcement agencies, with knowledge that was born out of his experience training special forces. He's written the book, The Firearms Training Notebook, 1% Better Every Day, co-hosts the On the Range podcast, and founded the In Honor of Duco charity. A combat veteran and a Special Operations Forces canine handler with 13 combat deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, Rick discusses his passion for training others and his involvement in Project Officer Survival, a non-profit that offers free law enforcement firearms training. He also shares his advice for veterans transitioning to civilian life and emphasizes the importance of taking control of one's healthcare. We discussed the importance of finding one's passion and purpose and how he is celebrating life through photos and journals. During the show, Rick shared his personal experience with processing grief and losing his beloved dog. He spoke about how he used his training and discipline to work through his emotions and come out stronger on the other side. In addition, Rick shared a very funny story about his time serving in Baghdad, where he and his fellow soldiers had to deal with a notorious Christmas cake thief. Despite their best efforts to catch the culprit, the thief remained elusive, and the soldiers were left with a holiday tradition that is forever changed. Overall, this podcast episode offers valuable insights into the world of tactical training and the importance of finding purpose and meaning in life. With Rick's expertise and experience, listeners are sure to come away with a newfound appreciation for the sacrifices made by our military and law enforcement personnel, as well as a deeper understanding of how to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. Now, check out the show notes. It's got the links, but if you're listening, you can find Rick at warhogg.com, that's 2Gs. On Insta, warhogg_com. Again, the link's below. And also Linktree, War HOGG Tactical. Thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator, subject matter expert from hownottodie.com.au. And you're listening to my Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, sponsored by these guys, mystate.com, the ultimate daily formula for optimum hormone health, stress management, energy, and performance. 100% natural and clinically proven ingredients, it provides everything you need to raise your game in a convenient, gut-friendly capsule. Links for my former shows are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching. And we're live. Welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, and welcome to my guest this morning, all the way from USA, Rick Hogg.
Hey, Damien, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and thank you, buddy, for your service.
Oh, same back at you, man. Thank you for taking the time to come on. War HOGG Tactical. Love what you do. Love the stuff you put out. And really, I just want to share your journey from your military life to where you are now, and what you're doing, as so many of this genre are, is paying it forward, knowledge transfer, helping others. And as the Sergeant Major of the Army, the New Zealand Army, who was RSM of New Zealand SAS group, surprisingly said in one show, he's in the service of others. I couldn't believe it. The big, grumpy RSM said he's in the service of others. So I love what you're doing there. Let's dive in, man. You're running War HOGG Tactical now in 2023, but sort of what was your background, and then let's go through why you started to doing what you're doing, teaching civilians and teaching law enforcement and so on.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a quick pause before I get into things. So War HOGG Tactical, which was actually rebranded, that was not our original business name, was actually established back in 2002.
Yep.
So I was teaching for the 7th Special Forces Group Advanced Urban Combat Committee. The first group of guys that came back from Afghanistan said, "Hey, man, that stuff you taught me saved my life." That set the hook for me running a training company. This is my passion. This is my why. This is my drive. So it's about giving back, whether it's to military, law enforcement, or civilians, right? I want to give them a skill set I hope they never have to use, but God forbid they do. They can be efficient and effective to defend them, defend their lives, their families' lives, the citizens, whoever it may be. That's the key point. So real quick, broad brush for me, 29-year U.S. Army Special Operations combat veteran, as well as being a Special Operations Forces canine handler, 13 combat deployments, both Iraq and Afghanistan. Started up War HOGG Tactical. We provide mobile firearms, tactical, and canine training to law-abiding citizens, military, and law enforcement agencies. We also consult for both the defense and firearms industry. I'm the co-host of On the Range podcast, the co-author of the Firearms Training Notebook, the inventor of the In Honor of Duco Loop Leash, founder of Project Officer Survival and the In Honor of Duco Project, where we don't want another SOF canine handler to make a medical decision about their partner based on their finances. And we can deep dive into Duke and all that stuff. So plus we're working on a canine documentary to try to capture canine history. The problem with that is we wanted to go back to World War II. We've lost all our World War II handlers. That history is gone. So we've got from Korea to current day. But yeah, that's the other sidebar stuff we're working on. We got a couple of things we haven't really been vocal on because one of my things is I don't want to disappoint people. So I want to make sure that all our ducats are in a row before we execute a couple of things. And yeah, when those things come out, it's going to be big. So that's a quick rundown.
Isn't it a mouthful? I say to people when I do my background, I need a whiteboard and a crayon because we've all got such a journey. Well, that was really cool. Touching on what you said about Project Officer Survival, that we'll go there, but just going back to where you said teaching law-abiding citizens, and I love that because you're not just willy-nilly teaching these amazing skills to others that will save their lives, because you're teaching things that bad guys could also use. So how do you discriminate a law-abiding citizen from someone who's just got the dollars to come and pay for your course?
So they've kind of got some questionnaires we fill out, and then we just do a little back end looking. We'll just leave it at that, just to make sure that, hey, we're vetting the people that's coming through.
Yeah. Nice. And what a powerful thing. You started off, and my first, I don't make a lot of notes on angles I'm going to go on, but the first thing I put down was 2002 before we jumped on. That stuff you taught me saved my life. When you hear something like that, it's that powerful. You go, that's one person's life. That's the direction I've got to go. That's so important. That must have really changed your mindset.
Totally. I mean, that was my whole driving factor for the why. So the biggest thing, talking to transitioning veterans is like, hey man, what do you want to do? And guys are like, I don't know. Dude, what's your passion? What drives you? What gets you up in the morning?
Yeah.
I wake up every morning as an entrepreneur, fired up, going, what are we going to get into today? And the beauty is I work harder now than I ever did when I was in the military. But it's my passion, it's my drive, So you talk about going back to 2002, having guys saying, hey man, that stuff you taught me saved my life. I've had recent LEOs, same thing. And here's the thing. I don't want another one, right? I'm appreciative of their notes. I'm appreciative of, hey man, let me know. Yes. I would prefer they don't. For those of us that have been in gunfights, right? I'd prefer nobody ever has to go through one. But I'm glad these guys, when they've gone through, they've been successful on the other end. And that's what we want to do. Unfortunately, here in the U.S., it's crazy times, man. It's all this defund the police, crimes out of control. But we're seeing some remarkable actions from these law enforcement officers. You look at Nashville. I mean, those guys, spot on, right? Yeah. So it's starting to come around, and that's what we're looking to do. So jump a little bit ahead, the project officer survival, what we've opted to do there is offer free law enforcement firearms training via tax deductible donations from, corporate donors. So now versus a company shucking their money, God knows where, hey, you can give it to us. You're going to get a tax receipt for it.
Yep.
And then, if you want to make it something where, hey, you call the media, you have a media event. I don't care what you do for your business promotion. I don't. What I care about is getting these guys some training. And we can talk more details in warhog.com. Stop there, shoot me a note, whatever the case may be. We've got a whole page on Project Officer Survival, but we've partnered with the Protectors Foundation, which is here in the US, a 501c3 nonprofit. We've also partnered with Spike's Canine Fund, again, another 501c3 nonprofit. And then obviously the In Honor Duco project falls under Scott's Wish, which again is an all volunteer 501c3 nonprofit. So we're just trying to give companies as many opportunities as they can to give back. And if you're worried about, whether your guys are getting trained or not, you've got some money in the bank, because I'd rather you put it to a nonprofit than pay Uncle Sugar their taxes, right? Hey,
Yeah.
man, give it to us, get the tax credit, and let's get the guys in your municipality, show them that you care about their training. And yes, we can do firearms, we can do tactical, we can do canine. There's all kinds of things we can do. The biggest limiting factor is, what does that agency have for either training resources or, firearms available? So guys are like, hey, can you run a patrol rifle class? I can. Do you guys have patrol rifles? No. So we stick with the handgun because that's the standard across the board. Every officer here in the US will carry a handgun. So that's where we focus, but it doesn't mean we can't shift. And again, we're just looking for corporations to step up, say, hey, man, we back these guys. We're behind them. And you know what? If the city, state, whatever isn't going to give them funds to train, you know what? We're going to give some of our, profits earned and take care of these guys and add to their survivability. We want, there's a couple of things I want. Number one, I would love to see officers killed in the line of duty go to zero, right?
Yeah.
I
Absolutely. You don't go to work to go and help people to not come home at night to your family. That's the bottom line, right?
Exactly. And you should not come home because of lack of training or lack of equipment. And that's the other beauty part with Project Officer Survival, right? So let's say you can't donate, dollars towards it. But hey, let's say, for example, you're a tourniquet company, right?
Yeah.
Dude, you can donate tourniquets. You can still get a tax receipt for that. We can outfit officers. So that's the whole beauty with this thing, Damien, is it's just not give me dollars. If you give us whatever comes in, the way that the laws are written here in the US, we can give you a tax receipt back for it. So now you're not eating the costs.
Yeah.
And you know that, hey, man, we're getting these guys taken care of. So yeah, that's our big driving focus right now. My civilian customers are not too happy. Hey, man, when are you going to do classes here? When are you coming there? Guys, I love you, right? I love my civilians to death. And I wish I had more time in the year to spread myself, but I cannot look at myself in the mirror and go, hey, these guys are out there underfunded, undertrained, and not do something about it. And that's what we did. So my buddy Jason Piccolo, he's the one that started the nonprofit, because there's some, I couldn't do it because then all of a sudden, hey, it's like you're giving me money to pay myself. It doesn't quite work, right?
Yeah.
And we have done non-named, we didn't call it Project Officer Survival before. We just called it Free Law Enforcement Firearms Training. But there's only so many of those I can do, because at the end of the day, I've got to take care of my family.
Of course.
And when you're sitting there paying out all this money, it's like, all right, dude, at a certain point, we got to push some ducats back. So yeah, that's the big one there. So long-winded, but that's what we got going on, buddy.
No, but you can tell the passion straight away, Rick. I mean, these conversations I have, I'm so lucky to be able to speak to people from all different countries on all different subjects, and just be able to connect. But your passion's very, very clear, and you explained it so well, and it is in depth. Because just looking at the website, you're like Project Officer Survival. Okay, that's nice, but I can see the depth of what's gone into it is phenomenal. What I really stood out for me is you were saying that back in the group for New Zealand SAS group, when I was there, you've always got benefactors. You've always got benefactors for
Mhm.
the SAS trust. Good
Yep.
people with money. I mean, you could call them philanthropists, but I wouldn't suggest they are. They're just good people with money and posse extra. They always wanted to give to us to help.
Mhm.
They saw the benefit in what we did, protecting the country, and so on. But what I love about what you've done is, hey, the city or the city council, whatever, is defunding or not taking care of the police so much, but there's good people in their city, and some of them are doing
Mhm.
quite well. And there's this thing you do, which is a tax write-off, and you can benefit these law enforcement officers. It's absolutely brilliant. I can definitely see you, A, don't need many people to donate, and B, those people would want to do that because who do you call? Do you call the local crackhead when someone's breaking into your house, or do you call 911?
Well, but this day and age, 911 is one of those that you call, and depending what time of the day it is, you might get an answer, you might not. You might
Wow.
get a response time in 5 minutes. You might get a response time in hours. I mean, these guys they're strapped. So the only way, in my opinion, we can get it is let's give back to these guys. Let's
Mm,
show them that, hey, we support you guys, and try to get these young people who I can't blame them for not wanting to get in, right? It's an occupation that's uh, ungrateful. People are sitting there giving them crap all the time. And let's be an honest broker, they're not dealing with the best of society.
yeah.
So, yeah. And then to boot, you know, you're gonna get me going off on a tangent, but I'll get on my
I'll be able to rein
soapbox.
you in. I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah, I'll get on my soapbox, then I'll jump off. Right? How is it that these officers, in the conduct of their official duties, are being charged with things like murder?
Yeah.
Right? Armed suspect shot, but we're going to charge you for what? So I just go back to the state of North Carolina. State of North Carolina tells me imminent threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. I can use deadly force to defend myself. There's no parentheses unless you're a law enforcement officer. You must ask him to do X, Y, and Z.
No.
But you see these guys being charged, and I'm
Yeah.
like, for what crime? It's unbelievable. But I would just say this, you know, to the chiefs of the world, if you are in control of a law enforcement agency, I don't care where you're at globally, because I know your stuff goes out globally. Take care of your people, back your people. Don't have stupid policies in there that restrict them from what they're doing. And here's the thing, be a leader. Step up. If you have a guy, and I use guy in my unisex term because everyone gets offended this day and age, right? But if you have a guy that does something, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't care. You stick with your people. If he's done wrong, you go, hey, dude, you messed up. There's nothing I can do to help you. I'll walk with you, but I'm not going to throw you to the wolves, right? Let the system do its deal. If you have an officer involved in a shooting and that shooting's good, why? DA, go beat it, right? I mean, we
Mm,
can get on this whole law enforcement thing. You've got liability rolling over their head. Half these guys aren't doing what they should because they're afraid of being sued, afraid of going to jail, afraid of losing their house, and then to boot, I'm going to plug in for my canine guys, right? One of my big pushes is try to get here in the US everywhere willing to transport canine officers if they are wounded. You have municipalities in this country that will not transport a canine officer in an ambulance. You have
wow.
municipalities in this country will not treat a canine officer in the emergency room. And I've told these guys, it's like, hey, dude, I would go to whoever runs that hospital, go check it out. We will never respond, ever. You don't want to treat one of ours? Sorry, dude. We're busy drinking coffee and eating donuts. Sorry, we'll get there when we get there, right? But I go back to my military side, and it's one of those, Damien, that you have to educate these law enforcement officers, because everyone thinks, hey, you were in the Army, you just killed everybody. Nope. I kill people that need killing, right? I mean, everyone gets a vote. Nothing personal. Hey, dude, you got a gun pointed at me. You're reaching for a gun. You're doing something to cause harm. I don't care. You're getting the gas, right? Unemotional event. You try to pass it off to these officers. Hey, you're doing the same thing. But I look at our canines. Our canines have the same medevac priority as their human counterparts.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, one of the dogs got wounded. Call that bird in. Let's get him out. Where's he going? We're not looking for a vet. What's a vet know about trauma? Nothing. He's
Yeah.
going to the cache. He's got a U.S. surgeon sitting there working on him. Why can't we do that here in the States or globally, therefore? Um, they're putting their life out as much as we are. Let's take care of them. So again, another passion of mine, obviously the
Yeah.
whole dog side, but trying to educate people on that. And you got to ask them, hey, dude, you know, what's your policies? I don't know. Well, you probably need to coordinate that stuff out.
It's interesting when you said before, when we were touching on the cop going to work, and I wanted to
Hmm.
come back to that point for the listeners.
Yeah.
That cop doesn't go to combat. He wasn't like us. We signed up to the military. You sign your life away essentially because you know at some stage you may have to go into combat. That cop does not do that. He goes there to protect life and property. Here
Hmm.
in Perth in Western Australia, that's the job of police: protect life and property.
Yep.
Um, and you may have to use the weapons, you may have to use whatever other accoutrements, and hopefully you can just use your voice at best case. But that police officer does not go to work to face these things. But unfortunately, that first officer on the scene, the least trained, will be the most likely to have to do that incident. Not the SWAT guys, not the all the instructors and so on, but that person on the street is going to have to deal with that person with a knife, or that person with a gun, and that also translates to the canine officer, to the dog that you said as well. They don't
Hmm.
get up thinking they're going to face down bullets, but they are so, especially over here, so untrained and 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 not keeping up with their continuation training. A former guest, Dan Cooper, 18 years, Australian SAS, who teaches some of this stuff um, about facing fear and so on, is really campaigning to get this into Australia. When I was a police officer, I did 2 years as a cop before as a fireman here, Rick. 2 magazines a year was the requalification. That was it.
Hmm.
You don't get to shoot 2 magazines a year. And again for the listener, that person that does that 2 magazines a year is going to be the first on the scene. So I love what you're doing with the Project Officer Survival. I'm sure all those cops would want to do more, and now you're providing the opportunity to do it. Do you
So
do you travel quite a lot for that, or is it just within your sort of state, or what's happening there?
no, no, we travel. So I'm going to pause. I got to go get this right here. And we're going to add this in
Yeah,
because this is
awesome,
critical.
awesome.
So yeah, I mean, so the beauty of Project Offshore Survival is we can go anywhere in the country, right? Yes, do we mainly do it on the East Coast? I do, because again, for cost savings and stuff like that. So can we go to the West Coast? Yeah, we've done stuff on the West Coast. I can go wherever. But just understand, hey man, when as soon as you start jumping on a plane, it's going to be added cost incurred, right?
Yeah,
Does it have to be one day? It can be as many days as somebody wants to sit there and we'll work out, hey man, here's what this stuff is going to look like and work all that. But you brought up a great point. Here's the key part. So obviously the viewers can see it, the listeners can't. The
yes,
firearm training notebook. Okay. So me and my co-host, co-author, Mark Kelly, we came up with the firearms training notebook because we would ask our law enforcement officers, hey man, 7 meters, draw the first shot, IPSC out target, A zone hit. What's your time? I have no idea. You
wow,
know, so it was funny because my canine officers would have all kinds of training logbooks for themselves or for their canine, but
yep,
where's the training for you? So the beauty with the firearms training notebook is we've incorporated this into all of our classes, both civilian, military and law enforcement, where this is basically a training notebook where now I can lay out, you're going to get some data from the range. From there, you can start developing what's going to be my dry fire plan. And then how do I make myself incrementally? And the key title is be 1% better every single day, right? That's what we're looking for, 1% better. And I got it. You don't have to shoot bullets every single day to get more proficient with the firearm. If you've only got 2 magazines per year, great. We're just confirming marksmanship and recoil mitigation, right? That's what we're doing. But all of our firearms manipulation, we're getting all that worked out in our dry fire,
yep,
training. But you have to have a plan. And it's like I challenge either my students, whether they're civilian, military, law enforcement, hey, do this. If you're not doing it, just give me, and it's really not me, it's give yourself or give your family, however you want to word it, 3 days a week, 5 minutes a day, and have a solid plan. And the book lays out, we got in there, hey, write your goals down, right? almost towards the front. So first we got the 4 rules of firearm safety. Next thing you know, got your goals in there, a little about us, but
Yeah.
write down what your goals are. If you don't know, that's fine. You can use the War HOGG self eval, because that's basically the first drill in there, just to see where you're sitting at.
Yep.
And then from there, write it down, because guys will sit there and have all these goals. And I'm like, well, show me pen to paper. Where's it written down at? Well, I don't have it written down. Well, it's not a goal, right? It's just a dream or a wish. Once I put pen to paper, now I solidify it. And I don't care if a dude sits there and goes, hey, man, I want a 2-second draw time. Roger that. He gets 2 seconds, lines it out because he's met that goal. Write your next goal in there, right?
Yep.
It's just getting better. And I'm just using that as an example, but we laid out where, basically you start with the War HOGG self eval. And then from there, you've got about 30 days worth of training. Another War HOGG self eval in there, another 30 days, War HOGG self eval. And then back, hey, if you want to set up drills or do whatever, but there's a section there for notes. I recommend, hey, we've got QR codes in there. Hey, you're not sure about something, hit the QR code. It'll take you to a video. You can watch it that way if that's the way that you learn. Some people read, some people, watch by or learn by watching stuff. But we try to make it as user-friendly as we could. And again, using it as a tool. And then, with the law enforcement side, imagine if everybody's got one of these. Okay. And now, again, depending, I'm not sure how you guys do it over there, but here in the US, you've got some agencies that are a roll call agency. So they'll bring everyone in. Here's your brief for whatever shift you're doing. And you sit there and go, hey, guys, bring your books in. And then you as a leader, right, just spot check.
Yep.
Crack it open, go, binding doesn't even look cracked. Oh, look at there. Nothing's in there, right? Hey, dude, what are you doing? And I hate to say it, but you got to do some public shaming. And I got it. People don't like it this day and age, but hey, dude, you might be backing me up and you're not putting the effort in, where you got either, somebody else going, hey, Sarge, can I get another book? Mine's already filled up. That's the dude I want, rolling in. It's like, hey, who do I got? Is my backup? Oh, Schmed Lappy. I've seen him on the range.
Yeah,
But
it's
let's
ownership,
motivate
isn't
our
it,
people.
though?
It is, but all we did was just develop a tool. That's all this is a tool. It's got to be on the individual to actually go through and make the effort. Because let's be, I tell them this all the time. It's like, you're in a job that will kill you. Train. I mean, here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, when I train with these guys, I'm like, you guys live in the deadliest city in the world.
Wow.
The only thing stopping is intent, right? Because you've got some men here that are a lot better trained than you are. You got men here that have a lot more experience than you do. You got a lot, you got a lot of men here that their mindset, hey man, if they opt to flick the switch, they're in it to win it. You're not going to stop them. And they just look at you like you're crazy. I'm like, guys, come on, man. Luckily they haven't done anything, but imagine a crew getting together going, hey dude, let's go take City Hall. Who's going to stop them? Nobody. But you just try to plant those seeds, man.
Yeah, that is a great segue for what I wanted to go to was your special operations training experience. That's what you're using now, but it comes down to communication. You've got all those skills that you literally started just prior to 2002, and now you've got that book. That book is a communication method. You said you got the QR codes, you got literally the notes in there, the goal setting and so on. How did you get, and this is a big question, how did you get from, high tier special forces unit in the military to teaching civilians in 2023 how to do things that keep themselves safe, save their lives, and teaching good people? How did you communicate to them? What problems did you find communication wise, and what did you do to evolve as an entrepreneur?
So the biggest thing is, and this is across the board, not only civilians, rolls into my military, my law enforcement guys as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You get guys that have egos that come out, and it's like, hey, dude, just put your ego to the side, because I'll give you generalities, right? Like, yes, I will ask people to do a War HOGG administrative load. Why? Because the way you load it, there's a bunch of sequences going on that you're getting training unbeknownst to you, right? Hey guys, try this. But like, I'll give you a prime example. Trigger finger, where to place your trigger finger. I don't know. Try it out. Guys got big hands, small hands. You've got to figure that stuff out. Grip pressure, how hard? Used to be the old 60, 40, 70, 30, whatever it was. Try increasing a little more with your support hand. Try this, adjust that. So it's the biggest thing is just, it amazes me that I'll sit there and walk the line and I go, hey, dude, try this. Oh, man, it's so much better. Hey, try that. Oh, yeah, it's working great. On occasion, you got guys that they're stubborn and want to, you can't teach me anything. Roger that. That's fine. Just make sure that you're safe, and just make a mental note that, hey, we just won't really pay you that much attention. We'll pay to, the other guys out there. But it wasn't really a hard transition, because a student's a student, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I don't care who they are, as long as they're willing to learn, as long as you understand the adult learning cycle, you got to do different things different ways. And I learned so much as far as teaching people when I was at the Advanced Urban Combat Committee, because I gave you a prime example. I went out there one time, shot this demo entirely too fast, right? Because it's like, oh, look at me. And then, of course, I sit there and all my students are trying to replicate it. And I learned a valuable lesson, because now I got to ceasefire the line, right? Hey, guys, bring it in. All right, let me show you what I'm looking for. Boom, boom, boom. Because they were trying to compete with me.
Yep.
And it's like, when I'm out doing my demos, for example, I'm talking, right? So they're seeing, I'm talking, everything's going on. Okay, hey, I got my pistol here. I can see my front sight post on my periphery. I'm looking at my target. I'm presenting out. I'm seeing this. I'm doing that. Just trying to explain everything as we go on.
Mm-hmm.
But all that experience was gained really, from the Advanced Urban Combat Committee. And then it's honing your craft, right? It's just, how do you get a little better? How do you do things like, what do I know about writing a book? Nothing.
Yep.
But you sit there and figure it out, right? You sit there and, I hate to say it, get on the interwebs and do some typing. Next thing you figure it out, and boom, you're out writing a book. So it's really, I mean, I didn't find it that hard.
It does bring me to the next part of that question. How did your Special Forces training experience, how did that help you when you went into the civilian world as an entrepreneur? And I'll contextualize that for you. You said it was so much harder. Mike Sorelli, SEAL Team 6 officer last week, same deal, so much harder. You're working so much harder in the civilian world. But what did your training and experiences from the world before do to help you in the civilian entrepreneur world? So sort of principle-wise, mindset-wise, all those sort of things.
Well, mindset-wise, we're driven people, right?
Driven.
We're going to succeed. We're going to figure out the problem.
Yep.
Right. So being an entrepreneur is nothing but solving problems. I'll give you a prime example. I thought when I got out, I was where I needed to be. Go to SHOT Show, as a civilian, see all my industry partners, and like, hey man, we can't find you on social. Where you at? Social. Yeah, we're working on it. Now I'm running back to ask my kids, hey, what's this Facebook and Instagram? How we get this stuff set up, right? Because I had none of that. I had Zippo. Same thing when it comes to the book, same thing when it comes to marketing, especially being in the firearm space. You are in a very suppressed market here in the US. Basically I served for 29 years to give, people there, the second book I always keep close to my desk here is my Constitution of the United States.
Nice.
Right. And First Amendment, freedom of speech. My friends have given their life for that freedom of speech. You look at our flag, those red stripes, that is blood that has been shed for the freedom that we have. Yet all these tech savages are sitting there suppressing our First Amendment, and they're getting away with it. Right. So I don't care if you don't like guns, check it out. Number two, we got the right to bear arms. So, hey buddy, quit infringing. And again, I'm not in this space because that's all I know. I'm in this space because that's my passion. That's my why. That's my drive. Granted, we sprinkled out with some other things that are my passion as well, but it's all the passion I have for stuff. But that's the hardest thing, is how do you deal with oppression? So you look at the Special Forces motto, to free the oppressed, the oppressor will bear. And I'm the oppressed here in the United States of America. I mean, it's mind boggling that this day and age, eh, I can't get 2 words out. You look at I put some posts out on Instagram. Not that I'm a big fan of social marketing because that's what it is, right?
Yep, it is.
Oh, you're in violation, right? And all it is an advertising agency. And once you understand that, like, hey, boost your post. Why? Because you're not boosting me. And at least I'll give Zuck this. He's being halfway honest now. I know for a fact I'm suppressed because he sends me these nasty little grams going, yeah, we're not pushing out your stuff. Well, thanks, buddy. So it's just a very mind-boggling world we live in with all this big tech, with all this suppression. And, to the veteran community, especially from the firearms industry, the very freedoms that I gave you, just ripped out from underneath you. And not that I'm a fan of the federal government getting involved, but it's like, hey, dude, step up for the little guy and let's get something done. So,
Because people don't
yeah.
realize in the military we're I don't know if there's a word. I try not to use fancy words, but I think we're apolitical. We just
Mhm.
worry about you. I worry about you. You're beside me, Rick. You worry about
Yep.
me. We worry about the mission. We don't really think. We're not thinking about. We don't bring politics into it. We're doing our job, and my job was to rescue the hostages. I had one job in the special forces. The mission was always rescue the hostages, rescue the
Mhm.
hostages. Um,
Yep.
and there must be such a strange realization that politics is now involved in that. But again, just reiterating, what did your special forces training experience give you to allow you success, which I can clearly see in the entrepreneurial space and the civilian space? And you really talked about that drive, putting your ego
Yeah.
aside and solving the problems. That's what special forces is about, is solving problems. We have
Mm-hmm.
that plan, and then immediately stepping off, it's all gone to total shit, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Nothing survives the first shot, right? No plan survives the first shot. So hey, you just adjust it on the fly, and that's what we're doing.
yeah,
Um, whether it's okay, hey, I might get zucked on my primary page, hey, get a backup page. But really, I I don't care about social. I do, but I don't, right? I drive everyone to warhog.com.
yeah,
Drive them to the website. I own that. Sign up for my newsletter. I'll communicate directly with you there.
yeah.
So you do all these things, and again, you learn as you go. And I think that's the key takeaway. It's just solving problems. What do I know about SEO? I figured it out. Hey, what's this SEO thing? I mean, much as I hate Google because that thing's all manipulated, but you get on there and you can at least get some info, right?
Yeah.
And you have to deep dive and you got to put the work in. So it's kind of no different. Nobody just shows up to selection, never training, and just goes, all right, here I am, right? It's like, all right, hey, I got to do a train up. And in essence, being an entrepreneur, that's all you're doing. Granted, it's
That,
a train up in a different way, but
that's why I wear this shirt on the show. This is Jordan Fitzgerald, Wharf Hut Athletic.
mhm. We're
He missed.
he's
He
one of
was.
our
I'm sorry.
he's one of our industry partners.
Oh wow, this
Yeah,
is
we're up
brilliant.
with Fitzy. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
great guy. And for the
Yeah.
listeners, he was New Zealand Special Forces Commando after my genre. But literally, when I interviewed him, I said, how did he get started? He went, I typed in, "How do you build a web page?" into Google,
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
like you've been
And,
saying.
and you learn because we're on our third, website provider, right? Because what do we know at first? Nothing.
Right.
But then you go, oh, hey man, well, I think this one's the way to go. But then you find out, hey, their e-commerce capability stinks.
Yeah.
All right, hey, we're gonna bail with you. We're gonna go with somebody else. Then you with somebody else, and they file for Chapter 11, which is bankruptcy here in the U.S. And we're like, yeah, dude, I'm bailing from that because I don't know if I'm gonna have a platform tomorrow. So let's go find somebody else.
Yeah.
It's just part of doing business. But that's, man, if I could tell you the hours that I spent on this computer, which I hate, I loathe it, man. I absolutely loathe it, but it's a necessary evil because you've got to figure out, what do you got going on?
Oh yes.
You got to figure out, hey man, how do I beat this? Um, you're not going to beat social, right? They've got you beat all day long. We were doing very well there for a while, and somewhere they flicked their algorithm, uh, heads or tails, and dude, we're just bailing water out of the sinking ship, right?
Yeah.
Um,
We'll see how it
we've
ends
got
up.
the old,
We'll see how it ends up.
yeah.
But Rick, just to tie that whole thing in a bow, which has been brilliant speaking to
Mhm.
it, is I've wanted to get one guy on the show, a New Zealand SAS veteran who turned anaesthetist. or in your
Mhm.
country, an anesthesiologist.
Yep.
Some big words.
Y
Um, did you have to change your communication style, literally just talking, when it came to the civilian world? So I'm just talking. This is just for. I've finally gone to the veterans as
Mhm.
subject. Um, Coming from the military, and it might be a bit loaded, but when we're literally mission focused and quite clear cut without having to explain things, when you started training civilians, did you have to change your talk at all, your communication style there?
I I do. So, I
Yeah.
talk a little nicer I talk a little nicer to my civilians. Um, I don't really cuss at them. Uh, I might when I'm driving a point home, like if we've got a safety concern that somebody's doing something unsafe, yeah, I might
Mhm.
get a little and I dub it passionate, right? So you go back to like if you watch the trailer for our law enforcement uh pistol instructional DVD, that was filmed at one of the courses we did.
Yep.
Is there some bleeps and some, stuff going on? Yeah, because I'm trying to drive a point home. But yes, you learn how to deal with your clientele. I am going to be, let's just say, more passionate, which some people might think is abrasive to my law enforcement officers. Nope, but it's to drive a point home. To my civilians, I'm still just as passionate to those guys, but I don't need to dig in their ass as bad as I do my LEOs, if that makes sense. And plus,
Yeah.
too, the majority of my civilians are usually pretty receptive, right? So it's, hey man, don't do this or don't do that, or maybe they're just confused on something, right? Just hey, explain something, demos, whatever the case may be, and yeah. Um, but like that whole little verbiage I gave you in the beginning, like the elevator pitch, huge, huge for an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Uh,
You did
Master
that
that
so well.
elevator.
I've interviewed a lot of people, Rick, and that's very difficult to do. And you did that very, very well because the human humility. There's this one of the tenets from the unit. I'm sure it's
Mhm.
exactly the same with you. Is based on two two. Um, doesn't really allow us to blow our own horn as such, but you need to explain to people what you do, right?
Mhm. Yeah, but if you think about it, I really didn't blow my horn.
No.
I stated the facts. 29-year U.S. Army Special Operations combat veteran. I was also, an SOF canine handler, right? So I set that. Hey, I've got tactical experience, but I also can work the dog. And then we roll right into War HOGG Tactical and what War HOGG Tactical can do. Yeah, I mentioned my 13 combat deployments. Why? That just gives me the backing of my experience. I'm not teaching theory. I taught theory at one point. No, I'm teaching from experience.
Hmm.
The things I'm telling my students, military, law enforcement, or civilian, it, it's all experience based. These are the things that brought my mates back home. These techniques work. And that's what we're trying to convey to these guys.
Yep. Yep. Brilliant. I love that you said that, stating the facts, about your background and about what you do. And,
Mm-hmm.
I really tried to paint that sort of last 10, 15 minutes for veterans listening, or people thinking about transition, or people struggling in that space. Um, I guess to tie transition, because we didn't really label it that,
Mm-hmm.
in a bow, do you have any advice for uh, people that are in the military or just looking at getting out, for what sort of pitfalls to consider in transition? And that can mean anything to you, because
Sure.
it's very individual. Any pitfalls or considerations to think about for transitioning from military life into civilian life?
So there's some things I'm going to hit specifically for my US listeners.
Yes.
Um, but again, it applies globally across the board. So first and foremost, whenever you opt to transition, you know, be thinking of that. We don't do a good job going, hey, when I get out, what am I going to do? But it should be, what is my passion? I'm going to push everyone to go be an entrepreneur, right? Because I am my own boss. I worked for the man for 29 years. Now I am the man. Granted, my wife might argue different, but that's here nor there. Um, for my US listeners, if you are thinking of doing anything in the government contracting space, get your business established 3 years prior, because the VA will not give you a service disabled veteran owned small business certification unless you've been in business for 3 years. So it
Right.
doesn't mean the business has to really be up and running. It just has to mean, hey man, you've got it filed with the state. Granted, you're paying the state, a couple $100 each year just to keep the business going, but you've been established, right? Because originally we kicked that can around because, again, it goes back to wanting to serve, right?
Yep.
When you really look at U.S. contracting, they're savages. And I'll just state that's what it is, right? They're making all this silly money for the corporate head, but you look at the minions who's actually executing, they're getting diddly.
Yep.
And I was
Absolutely.
like, well, what if we could bid on government contracts and then underbid the big guys, overpay, the guys doing the job? Hey, we throw a couple bucks in our pocket. It's all a good day, right? I don't need to make gazillions of dollars. I don't need some, skyscraper somewhere. I just need to feed the family, right? Well, till you get in there and start digging around going, yeah, man, that ain't going to happen. You're not going to beat, you're not going to beat these big dogs at their own game. Right. But we kicked that can around as an idea, but that's where we got savvy as far as knowing all that stuff.
Yeah, clever.
You have to, again, I will always push the entrepreneur. Go with what your passion, what your drive, but it doesn't matter what business you're doing. You've got to market somehow. And unfortunately, we live in a digital age. Get up with command, find out what the rules, regulations. I don't even know where the military sits at as far as social and what you can or can't say anymore. Figure out how to navigate that. Doesn't mean you got to put anything operationally going on, but hey, man, if you want to be Bob's Woodworking, right? Show some of your woodworking off. Hey, man, check this out. Look at going, hey, man, can I get a basic website just to get my name out there? I mean, all this foundational stuff we have to lay. And it's funny you bring that up because, On the Range podcast, one of the subsets is the War HOGG Words of Wisdom. And we're getting the entrepreneurial series where I'm just giving guys, hey, man, here's my lessons learned.
Awesome.
But you see a lot of guys when they transition, guys, listen to me. Don't be afraid, right? A lot of guys are afraid to take that leap. Do your homework prior to. You're still collecting your paycheck. Figure out your business plan. Figure out if it's going to make sense. Why am I mobile? Because I didn't want to have a fixed location, have people come to me. I didn't want to have an added cost of needing to buy a piece of property, get a range, the insurance, all that other stuff that goes with it, right? This was the most cost-effective way for me, was to have mobile firearms training that I can float around the country, try to hit as many people as I can. But guys are like, they're not sure. Guys, you've done some stellar work in the military, right? You're driven people. You just got to do a little more work and figure out what it's going to take. And you look at there's some amazing veteran entrepreneurs out there doing some crazy things across the board. Do your passion. Do what is you. Because if you wake up every morning excited, man, am I excited to go to War HOGG Tactical? Yep. I mean, that company is spot on. They take great care of me. Boom. Do we put some hours in? Yeah, we do. Here's the other key part I'm going to tell you. If you are going to be an entrepreneur, have a talk with the missus and lay out, say, hey, that trip to Tahiti or the Maldives or wherever you're going, yeah, it might have to be on hold because I did not realize how much work it was going to be. And then, of course, you got the wife going, you're working all the time. Yeah, because I'm trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
Where if I had done maybe a little bit better homework along the way, I could have had some better things set up. But like the social thing was killing us for the longest time, trying to figure that out. While you're doing all this stuff, go find a mentor, find somebody in the space. And here's the thing. This is how you know if you got the right mentor. And I didn't do a very good job at this, right? Because again, people are going to be worried about stepping in the space, doing this, Pat Mack, and I know he's been on the show, right?
Yep.
Pat's
Nice
a good
guy.
friend of mine, chatting with Pat, and it's like, dude, what do you want to know? There's enough space for everybody, right? And I'm like, roger that. But if you talk to a guy who's you want as a mentor, and next he's not really steering you straight, or kind of, you can tell, when somebody's like not giving you the full deeds, go, yeah, it's probably not the guy you want. And then I would say, if you are going to be an entrepreneur, find a way to put your name in there. That was one of the major rebrandings we had to do. Good buddy of mine, when I was, kicking the can, hey man, what do you think about my business name? He's like, man, that thing sucks. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? He's like, where's your name? And I'm like, what do you mean my name? He's like, that's your brand. Your name's your brand. And again, especially for my US guys, if you look at US history, and history is such a critical piece. But you look at why is Smith and Wesson Smith and Wesson? Why is Colt Colt? And again, I'm going in the firearm space,
Yeah.
right? Even modern day, you look at Glock, Daniel Defense. I mean, there are people's names. How about figure out a way to plug your name in? And I've had some guys go, man, my name just ain't working. Okay. What are you looking to do? Right. And we'll figure something out. But that's the whole thing. You've got some different veteran group out there that'll help you. But my biggest thing is sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
have the conversation with the missus, figure out what you're going to do. Can you swing this thing financially? Do all your homework prior to, and get out there and just do it. Here's the other critical part. I don't care whether you're military, law enforcement. When guys transition, my identity was not to the organization I work for, was not my rank, was not the U.S. Army. My identity is me. I am Rick Hogg, right? If you walk out of the military going, I'm Sergeant so-and-so, or I used to be part of the Paris, or I was in the regiment, or whatever you want to say, your ship's sunk, dude. You are done, because that is not who you are. That's what you did. And that's a key component. You see a lot of guys, we look at veteran crisis, right? And we got veteran suicide out of control. And I'll do my simple plug here. Hey, if you're having mental health crisis, at least here in the US, 988, get yourself some help, because don't do that selfish act. Because trust me, the pain that you inflict to others will be unimaginable to you, because you're gone and they're all suffering because you're there. But I believe a big part of it is when guys get out, their identity is so tied to that prior job. So for both the military and the law enforcement, right? Or first responder, hey, I was firefighter X, I was cop X, I was, soldier, whatever. That's not your identity. And the sooner you can understand that, for me, I was super blessed. I was super fortunate to do the things that I did in the military, but the military did not define me. Do not let it define you. You are you. And I would say that's probably the biggest takeaway, of course, all the entrepreneurial stuff, but you cannot be defined by your job.
It's interesting you said that, and that was what I was trying to tease out of you. So thank you for touching the psychological side and identity. It's been a theme through when I interview veterans there, but you put it so well prior to that. What is my passion? Because as you're saying, you're not your job, but we are passionate about doing a thing. You're clearly passionate about canines. I like dogs. I'm not really a dog guy. We didn't have dogs in the unit when we were there. I love the breaching side of it. That was my role, and love the different weapon systems we can use. That was my passion, was being incredibly good at that one small part. And that was my passion. But now you're saying it, it's like that was a passion, not the whole job. So when you get out, you can realize, right, what is my passion? What do I like doing? And that's your identity. You are so staunch, Rick, in saying, I am Rick Hogg. Again, I haven't heard any guests be as blunt and direct or clear cut or as precise as you said that, which was so powerful. I think it can really pay some real value there to people listening. Get out of what you're doing, because it's time to move on, time to retire, or time to go to something else. But find out what it is that makes you tick. For me, I literally remember speaking with Nick Caldwell of the Mill Gym here. He was Australian SASR. I was sitting with my partner as well another time. I just want to teach some of the things that I know. And you mentioned Pat. I will put $1 million when he was in the unit. He was never thinking he's going to be teaching kids basic do stuff on Instagram, but he loves it. It's his passion is passing on that knowledge. And I'm lucky enough, I've figured out how to teach with the how not to die stuff. As you're saying, I was thinking, when I go in the garage and show a 1-minute video of how to hold your phone and not get mugged or any little thing, that brings that joy that gets me excited. It's no big deal to us. Clint Emerson's the same. What he's done with 100 Deadly Skills, but all of us have that part of us in it, and it's exactly what you said, is bringing out what is the passion and then entrepreneuring that from there. So thank you so much for ramming that point home so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And go ahead. I know you got one more thing here, but I got something to add here that guys need to think about as they transition out as well.
No, I think you're good. I just had something in my eye that needed
Oh,
a scratch. So yeah, I think you can carry on.
yeah. So here's the other thing, guys, right? Um, if you sit there and look at stuff that Rick has done, Rick has showed his emotions in public, right? That's part of your healing process that you've got to figure out when you start rolling out. Because you got to think about this. More than likely, you probably got some TBIs going on, traumatic brain injuries, right? It's injuries, plural. And your brain's only got so much bandwidth. So all those dead mates that you never mourn for and you stick them in a box somewhere, that scab's going to get flicked at some point. Address it, deal with it. It's okay, right? Find people in your circle that you can have that honest conversation with. I've boohooed on my podcast. I've boohooed on other people's podcasts. I've boohooed on camera. You know what? It doesn't make me any less of a man, alpha warrior, whatever word you want to use, right? That's Rick healing. And I think it's important for us that during this transitional journey, sooner rather than later, let's start the healing process going, right? Figure out whatever it is. To me, what I did on the battlefield, I sleep like a baby, right? Doesn't bother me. The mates I never mourn for, that's my Achilles heel. The pain I caused to my family, times I should have went home, but I didn't because you don't want to leave the boys. That's it. Duke, losing Duke, God bless, man. That's part of my soul gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, I mentioned him, and all of a sudden we start going, oh. but it's important, right? It's important that guys.
It's acknowledgement.
Who knows?
Rick.
Well, it's acknowledgement, but it's also the healing portion, right? Because
yes,
you keep all you keep all this stuff boxed in, and when you look at your neural pathways being separated from all your traumatic brain injuries, man, trying to get stuff together. And there's things in there that you've got to get healed. And I'm not a personal fan of shrinks. Because I was an inpatient at the VA for 6 weeks trying to get my brain straight, and part of their protocol was you got to deal with the shrink. I had one that she was spot on. I had one that she was a textbook, had no clue, right?
Yeah.
All this, oh, you're hypervigilant because of the war. You're this, you're that, right? Yeah, lady. So I asked her this question. I was like, hey, if an NFL player reads the field, gets an interception, is he hypervigilant? I said, TBIs, yes, but is he hypervigilant? Of course, what's that going to do? I'm like, yeah, whatever. The other lady, so this is another important thing because I think this happened right around, it was actually, I think it was a year after if my dates remember right, me transitioning. So part of my healing process was my daughter, for her 18th birthday. Up to this point, hey, Dad, you'd missed 9 birthdays. Right.
Wow.
You want to talk about cutting your soul deep? Put pain on your kids, right? Doing something that you believe is right. So one of the shrinks gave me this best advice, and it healed this wound and has never been addressed since. She's like, have some mini birthday parties before. So prior to her 18th birthday, we had 9 little mini birthday parties.
That's
so
amazing.
we try to figure out all the years, and we got cards for all of them. And it just wasn't like, here's your card. No. And Dad's writing a little note. Hey, sorry, I couldn't be there. Hey, hope you had a great day. Whatever it is I wrote. We had, pictures of the 9s that we could just best recollect for the years all missed,
That's awesome.
And we stuck with 9. We figured it was actually more, but I don't think she realized that early on. So we just went with the 9. That was kind of the most relevant, going, okay, cool. But it hasn't been addressed since. And I still give her the respect to this day. Hey, sweetie, I've got a business opportunity on your birthday. I just want to see if it's okay if I miss your birthday. She don't care. Never been addressed since, right? That wound has been healed. It
Reframed,
was like
completely reframed of it.
totally, totally. I
Yeah.
mean, just absolutely fantastic. Um, but it was just it's one of those that, trust me, it's not all doom and gloom, right? It's somebody, and just so happened this one shrink who I really valued her input, that paid off. And if guys, if you want to use it, take it, run with it. Get your family straight, because when that door shuts for you on the last day, nobody's calling to check on you. Nobody cares. You're done, right? Who cares is your family. And if you've crapped on them like I crapped on mine along this journey that you're on, doing what you think is the right thing, unfortunately, you got to do some healing in there. Um,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I agree, man. You got to pay it back a little bit, or pay it
Yeah.
forward, which you kind of did. But I
Yeah.
love that we don't know psychological terms, but you just reframed that whole problem
Hmm.
and fixed it. And it's like looking at a problem or looking at it as a challenge. Same thing, reframing. Is that a trauma? Is it something I've got to just fix?
Yeah.
Um, and then you obliquely touched on Sykes, or whatever you call it over there. If you're
Yep.
not vibing with one, hey, that's absolutely cool. Just like when you and I have probably used a logo designer or whatever they call them, graphic designer.
Hmm.
Hey,
Yep.
thank you. You've done your best, but it's not for me. I'll go to this one. You've
Yep.
got to find someone that resonates,
Yeah.
and speaks your language. And that person that helped you with your daughter clearly had enough rapport to be able to communicate something that was going to help. So I love that you touched on that. Um,
Well, and Damien, you hit a key part, right? If you're not gelling with whoever you're talking to, and I think your mates do it better, right? So here I am at the Veterans Administration,
yep,
and they're talking about my traumatic brain injuries, right?
yep.
Well, I'm laying out some of my cases, and we talk about danger close, and like, what's this danger close you speak of, right? Like they don't
Oh
even know the
no.
words you're trying. Oh yeah, like they don't even know what you're saying, right? But then you bring up a great point. If you're not vibing, or check it out, if you need to fire your doc, fire your doc. So I told these cats going in, first thing I said, first words out of my mouth, no pills. Okay, cool. So you got all these people you got to go see. What was the first guy? Pain guy. Hey, you
Oh
need a refill on your script? I'm like, excuse me? What script? He's like, yeah, need some more oxy or whatever. I'm like, dude, you're fired. And he just looked at me like, what? I guess you didn't get the memo. No pills. You're fired. You know, my sleep doc. Hey, man, we'll give you some gabapentin to get your brain reset. My brain's jacked up. I don't need no gabapentin. You're fired, you
yep,
know?
yep.
But guys, take control of your healthcare, right? Take control of you. If somebody's giving you crap, they want to push pills down your throat, it's because they can't do medicine, right? I want to know, what can I do to fix my brain? Diet, exercise, don't get out and get lazy, right? Um, Prior to all the China virus hitting, luckily I already had the home gym, because that was one of my entrepreneurial dramas, was wasting time going to the from the gym, right? So we just opted,
Yeah,
screw it. I'm going to go build it in the garage, right? So
yep.
we had it way before the pandemic and all this drama hits and everything's locked. And I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I could have been a gazillionaire if I sold my stuff, but I'm like, I ain't selling nothing, right? Because I'm still getting my workout in.
I
But
love that.
guys have to, yeah,
I
guys still
love that
have
you
to work
said
out, man.
diet and exercise, man, because that, again, Shrek, John McPhee, who you
Hmm.
know, we've worked with, um, definitely the antithesis of a psychologist or a science guy. And he's literally just saying in his broad terms, hey, I reckon 70% of these problems with mental health is diet, exercise, and alcohol. You take those things
Hmm.
away, and you're so far ahead of the curve. What a
Yeah,
great thing he said, and you said the same thing. Diet and exercise. You get to control those, Rick. You choose what goes in your
totally.
mouth. You choose what
Yep.
movement you do. Nobody else chooses those two things, right? So now we got control.
No. Yeah. And like the alcohol, if you think about it, right? So let's think about it. I've got traumatic brain injuries, right? Of course, they're going to diagnose you as having obstructive. I don't have obstructive sleep apnea. I've got central, which is the brain, but nobody wants to diagnose that, right? I've got chronic pain. But if I sit there and suck that bottle down and black out, at least in my mind, I think I'm getting some sleep, right? The pain's gone away. No, dude, it's not, right? I'm a huge proponent of CBD. But, guys don't want to sit there. Screw that oxy, man. Get off them freaking opioids. There's other things you can do. And I got it. You've got to take care of yourself. But this is the whole problem, right? It's a big vicious cycle. And then you sit there and look at all these veterans going, why are all these cats all angry? Because anger is an acceptable emotion,
Yes.
right? If I'm angry, I'm a man, hooping and hollering and screaming. No, dude, that's just telling me you got some demons that you need to deal with, right? You got to deal with something. Get that crap out of your system. And I tell you this, man, I believe part of a big part of my TBI rehabilitation. And granted, I've got days that, you know, is it healed? No, it'll never be healed, right? But being an entrepreneur, always learning, always engaging, always keeping the mind engaged, right? Proper diet, exercise.
Yeah.
I think those are the recipe that, at least over here in the US, the VA should be pumping to guys. You know, don't be sitting to get them all doped up. You just want them doped up so they can't make another call for an appointment going, hey, you suck as a doc. I need somebody else, right? Do your job. But I'm telling you, it's your neural pathways can be healed. I believe your
Well,
neural pathways can be built back.
I must touch on that, and then I'll give an
Sure.
example of what you talked about with the VA and success. Uh, Joe Dottore, Commander, so Navy Commander Joe Dottore. I interviewed him maybe about a year ago. Nicest guy. He has developed a cure for TBI, and that's not something to say lightly ever. But basically, he had a TBI. He's a clever guy. He's a PhD and a doctor. Um, he was in a massive car crash and went, "Holy cow! I've got to fix this up." But he basically went, right. There's all these different modalities. Here's 7 different modalities, completely separate from each other, and none of them have a side effect. Unlike what you're saying, unlike this pain drug, this had a side effect. This sleep drug has a massive side effect, and we know it doesn't help you sleep. It just makes you go unconscious, like alcohol. but you're unconscious. And he has developed a cure for TBI over a period of time. I think it's about a 2 or 3 week protocol. And what I loved, same as you, my breaching days were the last blow I did was 2009. It's not only for acute but chronic. His was acute. So I'll put you in touch. And I mentioned whenever we talk about TBI because none of us is any money for him. He's just out there to help people. And whenever I've connected him, he's absolutely happy to help. So that's a game changer because he realized he reverse engineered, just like Kirk Parsley reverse engineered sleep and figured it out. He reverse engineered, what do you need to fix TBI? Well, this definitely fixes something. This definitely fixes this. We'll put it all together and see what the hell happens. And it was successful. So I'm super passionate about that for helping others. Back onto what you said about the VA, it made me, I just had this vision in my head about GBRS group and the 2 guys, DJ Shipley and Cole Flackler. They started doing art therapy, and it's the last thing you think a shooter would want, but we're actually fairly creative. You created your whole success, and they started making skateboards with some fracture burning. It's some kind of art therapy that they started in through the VA, I suggest, and that actually formed some of their passions. So I guess it's segueing back to when we talked about, what is my passion? What is your purpose? You may not know what it is, but you may fall across it and realize I'm actually really passionate about that. And they've got some really cool results. It allows them to get out of their head, allows them to have that space for themselves. And on top of that, they've actually even built a business with some kind of cool skateboards with it, which is successful in itself. But I guess it comes back to what you're saying is take control of your healthcare. If they've just been back to the eyeballs and not gone down that path, it wouldn't have been successful at all.
Yeah. And that's one of the things. So like when I was, down at the VA, that was one of our things was art therapy, right? We did some equine therapy, they do a lot of things to try to get stuff there. And I get it. But at the same token, you can't always label cats. Like I hate the term PTS, right?
Yeah.
I've been trying to get guys to go, like in my case, I dub it combat stress, right? It was the best word I could come with. It wasn't what happened on the battlefield, right? What I did to my family, the mates I couldn't mourn for. But you look at the signs and symptoms of TBI and PTS, they parallel with the one difference being those reoccurring nightmares,
Yes.
right? So granted, down there we were doing yoga. I was doing yoga beforehand. Yoga is a fantastic. You want to chuckle, go be a yogi, right? Trust me, you will get benefit out of it. But it's like I remember, first time doing yoga down there, and I've got this lady, nothing against her, but she ain't defending nothing, right? And she's like, "Okay, guys, I'm over here by the door, and I've got it locked, and you're all safe." And I'm going, "Safe from what, woman?" I said, "You ain't protecting me from nothing, right?" But this is it. But quit labeling everybody, and that's one of the problems with the VA is that they'll sit there and just slap labels on people. All right, is that the case? Is it not? Has there been some trauma? Sure. But a disorder, hey, dude, what happened on the battlefield? Hey, my mates and my family, yep, that's my Achilles heel. How do we heal from that?
Yep.
And then, and I'll be honest with you. Um, we started the healing process for Joe Andres pretty much as soon as I started retiring, right? That process was going. But losing Duke, so Duke was my combat assault dog. I retired in 2017 when I get out. I lost Duke in 2021 to osteosarcoma. I am alive today, multiple occasions because of that dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
My mates are alive today because of him, right? When I lost him, that was like losing part of my soul. That is my new. I don't know that I will ever get over, losing Duco. That's why we started the whole In Honor Duco project and everything else. But my point being is, especially for my handlers, and if you're retiring one of these beasts, and God forbid you lose him, right? Because in my mind, Duke's invincible. He's going to live forever. And I'd lie to myself, right? But that's all right. I did actually, it was via a request of some law enforcement officers that lost their canines. And like, hey, dude, because we were having some conversations with these guys, because that's the other part, right? Is here's my fellow handlers out there suffering because they just lost their partner. I'm going to give you my 2 cents. Like I'll tell you straight up, my truck, what are we going on? Almost 2 years since we've lost Duke. I still got nose marks in the truck. I will not wash. I will not remove. Right. I won't do it. It doesn't matter. Right. And guys need to understand, you just have to figure things out for you. What's going to work for you? I had one guy that was like, I can't pull his water bowl. Don't pull it. Leave it. Let it sit. Right. But it's all part of this healing process. And I think that's the key part. Guys need to understand. You can hear, prior to, yeah, there's emotions involved.
Mm-hmm.
When there's loss, there's emotions. It's okay because that's how we heal, right? Like, had we talked the name Joe Andres, earlier in my life, dude, I'd be flicking the scab, and it's emotional, right? But now I can sit there and talk about Joe for the most part, right? We still get emotional. There's still times that you have all that stuff come back. And people don't understand what loss does. Like, we lost Joe December 24th, 2005. Ask me what happened December 25th and 26th. I remember we did a memorial service. I don't know. I remember calling my wife, crying like a baby, right? Once we got the word that we could call home. I couldn't even get the words out. I had a buddy of mine go, hey, you remember because we renamed the chapel after him, the Andres Chapel. Hey, remember the chapel service we had? Nope. The next thing I remember is we rolled out on the 27th was the last thing I can recollect. And call coming over the radio. Hey, this one's for Joe. Roger that. Right. But this is what people don't get, what trauma will do to your brain. And then, of course, TBIs and everything else. And I never mourned for Joe. It was like, yep, we rolled on. We went out to his memorial service, but even his memorial service, because it was towards the end of the rotation, they kind of put things on hold so we could get back. Went up to Ohio to bury, we went up to Ohio for the memorial service, buried him down at Arlington. But it was just, there was no mourning. It was just you pick up and go. And guys have to understand that during that process is, hey, when that window starts getting close and you're getting out, start that healing process. And then the other part is to check on your mates.
Yep.
You got that circle in your phone, shoot a note. And, I had a buddy of mine that ended up committing suicide. And I'm sitting there scrolling through the text chain. I'm going, where is it? Where did I miss it?
Yeah.
And we're lining him up for, he was getting a job, getting everything all lined up. I mean, just fantastic stuff. Then all of a sudden, somebody says, "Hey man, did you hear what happened?" I was like, "Nope. So-and-so killed himself." And as soon as he said that, first thing I do, I grab my phone and I'm looking. I said, "Where is it?" I said, "Where did I miss it?" And it wasn't there. But guys, that's the other part, is just check on your mates. You've got that circle, and hey man, how you doing? Just check
Hey,
in.
let's
Hey,
just expand on that if you've got
yeah.
time. It's
Yeah,
such a power.
absolutely.
It's so important point to touch on. Males are very different than females. As Jordan Peterson clearly states from stats,
Mm-hmm.
many more females try to kill themselves, but many more males actually do, because we're more aggressive and they actually get it done. Um, you're saying check on your mates, absolutely, and people
Mm-hmm.
are thinking, okay, I've got to reach out to them, ask them for coffee or beer, whatever. It may just be one word you say. It may just be one sentence, and you
Mm-hmm.
bring me back to, and that show goes out this week. Tom and Jen Satterley. You know,
Yep.
Jen
Great
sent him
people.
one text
Yep.
that took that gun out of his hand. You
Yep.
know, he was ready to go. One
Yep.
thing, which was, "Hey, you're late. Get
Yeah.
down here. You're late."
Yeah.
It can only be. It doesn't take much, but further,
Hit.
we hide it so well. And I know I'm preaching the choir with you, Rick,
Yep.
but I'm saying this for the listeners. It,
Mm-hmm.
it takes nothing to just say hi, and that hi, or whatever it is, a message, whatever, can be enough to pull someone out of that funk. So check on your mates is so underrated, and it may mean anything. It may mean, hey, you're
So,
later. It may be you're ringing someone up, but that's super
yeah.
important to do.
Let me just, I'm gonna give you a little more, and this is what Rick does, right, Damien? So let's say I were to reach out to you. Hey mate, how you doing? Benign, right? I'm waiting for your response. What would be your response if I go, "Hey mate, how you doing?"
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. What's up? Right? That's gonna be my follow-up.
Yeah,
Because if somebody asks me, if you turn around and go, ask me the same question,
exactly. How you doing, man?
"Man, I am doing fantastic."
Com-
Look,
Completely
look at
different.
the completely different, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm high on life, man. I'm loving it, right?
yeah.
If you throw me a good or I'm okay, my next response is, "Hey man, what's up?"
Or
Or "Hey man, you got
fine.
time?"
Fine's a classic one,
Yeah,
isn't it?
fine. Fine's a good one as well, right? "Hey man, what's going on? You got time for a call?" Because I want to dig a little deeper,
Yeah.
right? Typically, if somebody asks, "Hey man, how you doing?" "I'm doing great." "Man, I am super busy." Right? There's something, I'm going to give you some emotion to that. Now, it could be nothing, right? You trust me. We all know the people that are just, "I'm all right," and they can be happy as anything. "I'm all right," right? They're just one of those, that type of people. But look, that to me, that's the rope,
Yeah.
right? I'm all right. Just circle back, and just talk. Because here's the thing, we have not served together, but I guarantee we can have a conversation about commonality, things that happen that will 100% we can relate. And that's where it goes back to, I believe personally, that's where your mates come in. Now, we all know the mates we can trust, right? We got some out there like little snakes in the grass that, hey, you tell them something, they're going to stab you in the back, right? But the mates you can trust, you sit there and go, "Hey, dude, if I'm going to sit there and open up and go, Damien, here's what's up, Dan. I am
Mm-hmm.
in a shit spot." You go, "Roger that, dude. Let's work it out, right? Let's talk about it. Let's figure something out." And I'm not saying everyone out there is suicidal, right? Some
No.
guys are just in a crap, they're just in a crappy spot, right? They get dealt a bad hand, whatever's going on. But that helps as well, right? Just reach out and just see how they're doing.
It's super important. I've got nothing to add to that. I want to leave that one there for people to consider and possibly
Mm-hmm.
rewind. Slightly back about processing, and you talked about the loss of your canine partner, the loss of your colleague. Um, in the military, life is linear. You go to this course and you do these things and you get this result.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the military, life is not linear. And you talked about processing and so on, and you didn't mention the word, but the grieving process, it's
Mm-hmm.
not linear. And you talked about that LEO with the bowl. no problem. It could be tomorrow that he goes, yep, it's time, or it could be 10 years, but it's not linear.
Yeah.
And that's what people have to realize. It's a bit different now than it was in the whatever service you're in. And things happen at their own time. I think
Mhm.
that's something that has worked well for me because I'm a absolute logic guy. But you realize it's got its own sort of frequency of when things happen.
Right, but there's no logic to it, right? So this took me what, 10 plus years to figure out, probably longer, 12, 13 years. I didn't realize when Joe was killed, the brain's a powerful thing, right? So what's the
Very,
brain do? The brain starts putting walls up
yeah.
because I don't want to get too close to you because Damien could be gone tomorrow. So Joe, his nickname was the Baghdad Christmas cake thief, and I'll tell you that story because I think it's important to help keep his
Yeah,
memory alive.
sure.
But you know, Joe's gone like that. Your brain starts going, I don't want to get close to people, right? Did I have friends? Sure, I had friends. Did I really harness relationships? Nope. Why? It's a survival mechanism
Hmm.
because your brain doesn't want to get hurt again. Um, so if you have had loss in there, be careful, be super careful, right? Because there's relationships I did not harness. You know, was I sitting there thinking to myself, consciously going, yeah, I don't want to get close to him because what if he gets killed, right? Or worse yet, you got a buddy's wife that goes, hey, make sure he comes home.
Oh
You
no.
want to talk? Oh, yeah. You want to talk about some burden? Oh, good Lord, woman, you just did not put that on me. It's like, oh my God, man. But no, I want to share Joe's story because I think it's
Yeah.
important, right?
Yeah, let's do
And
that. Let's finish on that note. I'd
yeah,
love to hear
and
something about that.
yeah, and here's the thing: it's important to the family because I'm still in contact with the family. And one of the sisters I talked to, she's blown away that He's like, you're always telling stories. Like, yeah, why wouldn't I? That's how we keep Joe's memory alive, right?
Awesome.
And and people always want to go, but what happened that night? It doesn't matter what happened that night, right? Because even if I tell some more story, you're not going to remember. I'm going to tell you the story of Joe Andres, killed December 24th, 2005, aka the Baghdad Christmas cake thief, right? So Little Debbie's used to be packaged two to a package back in the day. There were these little Christmas tree looking cakes. Um, and somewhere probably mid-December, I started finding these cakes in my bed, in my boot, in my kit, just these single cakes. I'm like, where are these things coming from? Right? December 2005, I catch the Baghdad Christmas cake thief. And who is it? It's Joe Andres. Well, Joe would steal them from another guy. All right. And Joe he was such a prankster dude, man. Right. So he would steal them from another guy. I think he only ate one. Right. Um, Whether he was trying to clear his conscience, do whatever. Hey, I ate one, gave one away, whatever the case may be. But I caught him. And sure enough, right as I was catching him, man, pagers go off and got to go out the door. And a couple hours later, we lost Joe. But here's the power of that story. Because if I tell the story, what happened and everything that went on that night, people, whatever. I had I had a buddy of mine send me. So now they're just packaged one, two, they're just packaged individually. They're not packaged in the doubles. I had a
Hmm.
guy send me 3 Christmas cakes. Why three? Because there's 6 in the box. He took half, sent me half, right? I get my mates. Granted, you guys don't have, the Christmas cakes, but you got fruit cake, right? And you take a picture of fruit cake, and I'm like, not the same, but I get it, right? It's keeping that memory alive. We're keeping Joe's memory going.
Yeah.
Um, and dude, those texts, those emails mean more to me, and I share that stuff with the family, and they are blown away. Of course, in their mind, Joe's still, you know, 34 years old, being the prankster, jokester that he was.
Yeah.
And if I can help, as long as I got breath in my lungs, and let's think about it, I've shared that to another generation. My kids
Yeah.
do that. My kids
Yeah.
know that story. How long are we going to keep this name Joe Andres going?
Yeah.
Right. Why did I start the In Honor of Duco project? Partly because I was selfish. I want to keep Duco's name alive. Right. But no, I want to help out other guys that, have medical issues with their retired canines. So that's the other part of this is, let's keep our fallen mates' memories alive. Share their
Absolutely.
stories. And it's part of the healing process, because there'd be a time and place that I would never, I didn't even want to open up the name Joe, right?
Yep.
Because it hurt too bad. And trust me, it still does. It's gotten better, right? That's my key point. We've gotten through that. You know, go Google Rick Hogg and you'll see some stuff, man, where Rick's still dealing with it, right?
Yep.
But that's okay, because you can see you can heal from it.
The reframing of that again, brilliant, Rick, because you're reframing trauma into celebrating his life. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how it should be. You're
Yeah.
celebrating all, because when his life ended, that wasn't his life. He had 34 years before that, and all that
Mm-hmm.
life that you got to share with him, and all his life's
Yep.
family got to share with him. And you're celebrating that, remembering it, passing it on to future generations. It's a beautiful thing for us to finish on, is reframing those traumas, if you want to use that word, whatever word that resonates with you out
Sure.
there,
Yeah.
reframing those painful memories into, actually, we can look at that and honor those. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to maybe talking to you again down the track, and seeing what
Yeah.
reframing you've done more of, on top
Sure.
of what you've done with the canine work as well.
Yeah, Damien, I got 2 points just to add.
Please do.
Real quick.
Please
I
do.
would I would tell guys, take as many photos as you can, because I don't have a single picture of me and Joe. It's one of my regrets. Um, and then the other thing is, there we go. That's part of the healing process, right? So I didn't
Yeah.
plan to kick that one, but dude, that cuts deep. I got no picture of me and him together. The other thing is, I'm gonna tell guys, journal. I wish I could look back and go, hey man, what was I doing? You know, this time, oh 05, oh 06, oh 07, somewhere in Iraq, right? Or when we transition over to Afghanistan, just have a journal of what kind of you're doing. Just kind of lay out your day a little bit. I mean, we do now, but I would have loved to have had that and just reflected back on time. So that's just kind of my 2 points, for guys out there as well.
They resonate with me, Rick. Again, thank you for being so open in the way you said that. Uh, I was sent a photo from Anzac Day, my last Anzac Day in the squadron. I didn't even remember that photo getting taken. It was all of us.
Yeah.
That guy
Yep.
had the presence of mind to take a photo and capture a moment. It's an amazing photo that
Mm-hmm.
no one's ever going to be able to see, apart from
Yeah.
my family and the guys.
That's
I
fine.
didn't remember. And yeah, anybody listening right now, get that camera out and get that journal out,
Dude.
because down the track,
Yeah.
you want those memories. You want to celebrate those moments.
Absolutely. Yes, you do.
Yeah. Rick, it's been amazing having you on. It really has. So nice to get to know you, and I get to know people organically on the show. I go on maybe with an angle, but literally it's just organic as we go through. So thank you for
Sure.
your openness. Thank you for what you're doing, which clearly is saving people's lives, and it's brilliant to see you actually being able to realize your passion. And I wish you the most success in your future endeavors as well.
Thanks, Damien. Same to you, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right.
Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former Special Forces operator, and check out my new project for 2023 at hownottodie.com.au, where I've combined all my Special Forces training and police officer experience to help others. Thanks for watching.